Afternoon, everybody. How are we doing today? This is our first YouTube space for the year, and we're super excited about it, right? So I want to use this opportunity to thank anybody that's here. I see one person is here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The guests will be here in a minute, right? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Um, yeah, so our guest is here now. Hi, Mr. Ezekiel.
Hi, Cynthia.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well. How you doing?
Great. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Same to you.
I'm so happy to have you on board today.
Yeah, same here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So the sound is good.
Yep.
Okay. So you want to continue this or with your tab or with your iPhone, whichever one you want to continue like this?
Uh, well, I think this is fine. Yeah, this is
It's
fine.
fine.
This
Okay.
my tab. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate. It's been a while we've been talking about this.
Yeah, I know, right? A lot of random casual conversations about.
Can we see your face very well? We don't want to see her face. We want to see a full face.
How
ah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know you came with the energy, you came with the vibe. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway,
Yep.
I know we have some tough people here today that are going to ask some very tough questions. So, and I know you're also ready, right?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm
Yeah.
ready.
So by 2 minutes time, we'll kick off. Somebody is already here. Thank you. Thank you for joining. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. So, Mr. Ezekiel,
Yeah.
what can you say about 2024?
I think it's been a lot. It's
Okay.
as if just we've gone through a whole year in one quarter. Yeah. So normally if you're expecting things, whatever has happened should have been usually a very longer period of time.
Yeah.
Everything just happened in 3 months. It's just really been a lot. It's been we moved.
Whatever it is, will be fine. We'll move.
Yeah, I think
We'll
that's
move. We'll move. So, thank you. In a minute's time, we kickstart, and people are gonna join shortly. Yes, 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 yes. Okay.
yep.
I can see we have some very tough questions for you today.
As long
Okay,
as
beautiful, beautiful. So, I think I need to first of all let people understand why we're doing this, why we feel we should talk about this, right? We all know that the only thing that's constant in life is change, right?
yeah.
In all sector, there's an evolution going on right now, right? And people need to learn to adjust to this evolution before you're being kicked off or you're being let out, right? So, Mr. Ezekiel is the founder, CEO of HaapLiving. He's going to tell us so much about HaapLiving. Um, he has a flair for property technology, trying to see how they can make the system a better one, how they can make it more efficient, how they can make it more sufficient, right? So it's a pleasure to have you here today, and welcome to my space. Welcome to my live. I want us to learn, ask your questions, and we'll be ready to hit through. So before we start, Mr. Ezekiel, do you have anything to say to our viewers? Just
Yeah.
to let them just to give them a tip of the iceberg.
No, I think fundamentally I'm excited that they're able to join.
Yeah.
This for them to actually come here and Definitely, it's going to be like a very exciting session. This topic is something that um, I'm really, really passionate about. So it's
Mm.
not or anything, and ready to kind of like pour everything. So yeah, it's definitely going to be
Alright.
an exciting session.
Alright. Alright. Thank you so much. So, in your own words, Mr. Ezekiel, can you explain what is co-living? We hear the word co-living. What is co-living?
Okay, so co-living is like it's one of those co-words. So if we're going to kind of like break down the lexicon, it's co and then living. Um, Primarily, living has to do with maybe like how people live together, and then the co is now focusing on different kind of people living together. So using that as a base for the definition, it's going to be like a system or it's kind of like an arrangement for living where people that are not related stay within the same apartment or within the same building. So that's a very, very key factor that they are not related to their living. So it's a subset of a broader definition of what they call like shared accommodation. There's a temptation for people to want to substitute co-living and shared accommodation together. Why they
Mm.
are similar, it's not exactly the same. There are even some other forms like co-housing and the rest, but co-living specifically, one of the niche around it is that they are not related. Secondly, the utilities are provided for. It's usually furnished service, and utilities are provided for. So whoever is coming in, and also it's not a kind of arrangement where there's any liability to any of the persons staying there. Meaning that if maybe I have a one bedroom in a three-bedroom co-living space, even if I'm the only one there, I'm paying the amount I'm supposed to pay. You get? I'm not paying. It's not a case of maybe because there are two people there. If we're to split the power bill, 10 naira, we're not going to split it 15 naira. No. Co-living, you just pay for just your own particular place. So it's usually managed, not self-managed, managed by maybe a company, and then they offer.
Mm. Thank you so much. I picked your points. Now, they firstly, they are not related and they are living in a shared space. Mm.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We know it's common in Africa, right? In the West. Sorry, it's common in the West, not in Africa. Do you think it's generating enough momentum here in Nigeria?
yeah, it is, and I think it's also for the same reasons why it's generated momentum the rest of the world. Like for instance, now almost no one in, except maybe of course for like the elites, almost no one in maybe say places like London, Amsterdam, New York, Paris are staying in their own apartments. It's
Hmm.
usually a shared apartment.
Yeah.
Maybe for somewhere like New York now, for instance, or London, the reason is very simple. The price for rent is really high. It's usually not so much of a case of like, oh, we're trying to build a lifestyle, yada, yada, yada. And it's those same reasons why it's happening here in Nigeria. But because they're in the West, the market has matured a lot more. So that even people are now even trying to explore it for lifestyle choices, like having like nomad spaces, people that are doing
Mm.
remote work, traveling from one city, the same, they get same European Union. You can go from France, Germany to Netherlands, all of those kind of places, and then there are apartments that you can stay in belonging to the same entity on the same
Mm.
subscription. So they've moved from that necessity or the fact that they're going to offer that affordability to lifestyle. Here in Nigeria, we are still at the basis. And I
Yeah.
don't think people started to hit housing crisis.
Mm.
This year, like what we're joking about earlier this year, I predict that there's going to be kind of like a slowdown in delivery of rental accommodation. If
Okay.
anyone completes a building now, it makes more sense for him or her just wants to sell it off and then move ahead. If he was thinking of rental, that thought slows down because now you're not, it's not so much, you need that stuff to move. I feel like that's why I feel like rental accommodation and when there are hits like that, there's a lot of pressure to the existing inventory.
Mm,
And when that happens, rental prices go up. So there's that ripple effect. For instance, maybe in places like in Lagos, Lekki Phase 1, Lekki Phase 1 is like a commercial hub.
mm,
It's very likely you'll find studio accommodation or self-contained, as some other people know it as. Instead, what you'll find is single rooms. So single rooms now is now a form of like shared accommodation. Again, the same concept I mentioned, where they just tell you to pay a single fee and they're promising 24 hours power. It's
okay.
already, even if it's basic furnishing. So again, there's a demand for it, and people are willing to pay for it, and those
Mm,
are popped up. And it's so interesting because people that are doing it now, they don't even need to advertise because of how high the demand is. So you could just be passing around and only to hear that this apartment has been a shared apartment for the last 5 years, for
mm,
the last 10 years, and they've never had any vacancy issue because people there are always renewing. Someone else living, referring someone there because there's a huge demand for it. So it's spilling from those core areas like Lekki Phase 1, it's going to other areas like Chevron, some other major areas in Lagos too, like Ikeja. And it's now kind of like gaining ground because more people are either maybe fundamentally that it's more affordable, but then secondly that it's much more accessible. You get the whole rigmarole of trying to get a traditional apartment compared to getting a co-living apartment. It's easier to get a co-living apartment. There's less drama attached to it. You can get it and move. For HAP, for instance, you can move that same day. But for traditional apartments, it's a lot more trickier. You get so all those type of things are part of the factor that is now making people to go into it. So yes, statistically, there's a lot more momentum building, and I'm sure that from this year down to the next 3, 4, 5 years, not just Lagos now, even areas like Abuja, Port Harcourt, and other major cities will start to now see the trend, especially as people have experienced it through students' housing.
mm. Thank you so much, Mr. Ezekiel. You know, Abuja, the rent right now is not a joke.
Yeah.
Rent right now in Abuja is as if you are, I don't know how to call it. It's as if it's something else, right?
Mhm.
So another major reason why we decided to bring you on this space, right, is to also find out, you know, there's a Jackpot syndrome in Nigeria that has been there for a long period of time. People have houses, people have duplexes. I have friends, they have houses, they have duplexes all over Nigeria. They're no
Mhm.
longer in Nigeria. The property is just lying there, doing nothing. Yeah, they
Yeah.
want to give it up for co-living, but there are certain things that they need to understand first, right?
Yeah.
Literally, that's why you're on this space. So let me move on to the next question, so that we are setting the momentum right now. What do you think are the reasons for this momentum? Right. So right now you're going to talk about the problem and a bit of emphasis on the supply issue for housing. You know, increasing empty single family units by families that have relocated. Just like I've said, the Jackpot syndrome.
Yeah.
Right. What are the challenges? What's the reason for this momentum?
Okay, so it's again, it's a very, very fundamental reason. There's two major cities, especially immigration or migration to those cities is happening faster than their housing stock can manage. And usually there's now like I also notice a trend where there's now also this general dislike for hotels, especially if you're staying for a fairly long period. You're looking for some an alternative. The alternative, of course, first of all, is short lets. But then again, if you're a big price conscious, your third option is a shared apartment. So if you're telling me that I can stay maybe for a month and then pay 200,000 naira for a shared space, as opposed to paying 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 naira per day for a short let or a hotel, it's no longer a difficult choice to make. You get so there's that to actually kind of like think about in terms of supply. There's not just anywhere enough supply. Even the new properties coming up, the usual process they go into is that it's being sold to maybe like 1, 2, 3 sets maybe over like a 3 year period before the last person decides to rent. I'm sure you're familiar with all this trend. The first person you sell to check most likely is holding to sell again, and then is holding to sell. That I'm talking of properties that just been built up before the last person decides to rent. And when the last person deciding to rent, again, is probably looking for a family to take it, or one person to take it for 2 years. It's all of those things. So those housing stock are not exactly available. You now have the 4 bedrooms. It's now those 4 bedrooms and above now that someone probably convinced the landlord that, oh, with your 4 bedroom, you can be making nothing less than 3 million naira, 2 million naira per month on short lets. Innocent Oga says that is not happening like that. So we've had several situations where they've called us out of the blue and then to just specifically ask that, oh, how do I still bring value on this particular asset that short let is not working? It's already fully furnished. So that's one again naturally leads to a right. I can tell them that okay, you can comfortably make a million naira per month as net earnings. So no wahala, take. You get those type of things for shared accommodation. So those are the kind of like trend that are not leading to that momentum. Of course, there's one where there's like a chronic jackpot syndrome. A bit of personal information. I got married last year, and most of the people that I plan to invite from earlier in the year, as of the time I was getting married, they don't move. They don't move. So you see that there's a very, very serious trend like that. We've had it's bad in Lagos, but Abuja too has its own dimension, of course, for a slightly different reason, but there's still that Japa syndrome happening there. And those people now, the average Nigerian prefers to just leave it empty. You get, especially when you look at the value of rent compared to the forex you'll be earning, it doesn't make that much sense. You want to leave it empty. But what they fail to understand is that building is like a human being. If there's no activity, it starts to decay. I'm an architect, but I don't fully know the science around that. But I just know that's a simple trick. Leave your building for a year and compare to someone that is staying in his building. Even if that person is not doing any active cleaning, the person's building will be better than yours. So you have a situation now, people now having this spirogyra and everything. And on the worst case, even if you're not thinking of it from the point of maintenance, you're better off just putting it on the market to rent. And how much more if you can now offer real value to young Nigerians, maybe just leaving school, looking for below market rate, and you in the end you earn above market rental return. So they get kind of like that win-win. So that's kind of the momentum that is now driving this, both from fact that single families are relocating. Some of them are open to the idea of now getting rent on their property. In fact, that is still additionally still maintained. And also now the problem where there's migration to cities, major cities, and people are not just housing is not happening as quickly as it should in those areas. If you're trying to talk, you're muted, Cynthia.
Pardon?
Okay, I can hear you now. You were muted, or I couldn't
Oh,
hear you.
really? Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, beautiful. Is there potential for widespread adoption of co-living? Looking at the economic situation, looking at what's happening right now in the country, is there a potential for widespread of this concept, adoption of co-living?
So yes, there is. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. While to be honest, like most of what could be happening now is not what HAP does, but what we are strongly considering is this situation where people that genuinely don't have money. Now I mentioned maybe like 1 million naira for a 4 bedroom per month. That probably means we're probably pricing it at say 400,000 naira per bedroom per month. And some people are looking for 400,000 per year. Nothing wrong with that, you get. But I just thought about this that entities like HAP, you can simply get this 4 bedroom. We already have the database. We have people that have it at that particular budget. And then we get the apartment on their behalf so that they don't have to feel like anyone is getting any serious liabilities. You can now
Mm,
mention the problem why people will be wary about sharing spaces because there's always this issue of like who will pay for power. Who do you get? What if this person cannot pay for the second year rent? All of those kind of like issues. We just take all the stuff from them as long as we know they exist and give them the house as is. Do you get? So those kind of adoption, I think, is going to keep increasing. It's going to keep increasing. January was a very interesting year because we are in the rental space. There was very, very close, less than 10% demand than what we would normally have. The same thing with that December, and that's simply because people's purchasing power has taken a serious dive. Landlords, on the other hand, are feeling constrained to increase rent, no matter how nice they are, and simply because again, the operational cost for the property, plus most landlords, from what I understand, they use rental property to and finance other investments. So if that doesn't work again, the tenants take the hit. So a lot of tenants are not able to renew. So it's that kind of like vicious circle where co-living, the adoption is definitely going to increase so that at a minimum, it now serves as a temporary place for people to stay while they get themselves back. And I'm not talking, no, now not at half normal price point, at the genuine 400K per year, 300K per year, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, as is. You get, and people are able to now access it. The additional value now is that we know there's some certain things you have to pay for, like internet. If maybe everybody's spending 3, 4, 5K per internet, what we're now asking you to maybe give us like 2K, 3K, and you have access to unlimited internet for that particular month. Because first, again, we've provided the infrastructure. This is the trend that we're now looking at very, very actively, beyond just because it's we've seen it from this first quarter. Purchasing power has taken a note that people must live somewhere. It's we are offering a very fundamental need. And you can't then say that, oh, just go away. We've even though we don't have the what's called this, the inventory yet, we are collating the database for those people, and it's piling up and piling up and piling up to the point where wherever we can, we just have to just start this thing at some point. So I think that that's one of the ways where this momentum is going to be. Airbnb, for instance, started in 2008. That was the year of the Great Global Depression. And during that time, purchasing power again took a note that it was their own need. They needed a place to just sit down and stay and spend the night. They get also kind of this shared apartment process. And based on that, as things got better, there were more meaningful uses for it. So those, I think that's the strategy that's going to happen. It's already commonplace. You can't have a 4 bedroom and you're looking for a family to take the 4 bedroom. To pay how much? You get how much are they earning? It's easier to get 4 people now to get those people in. And there are agents now that they are getting a niche within that, finding spaces which they now call single rooms. So that
Mm.
trend do get momentum, but unfortunately, it won't be based on maybe some exciting notion, but more like there's a need. Money is not so much on ground, and people still need to access this housing. I think that's part of where co-living can now provide truly affordable housing for people that need it.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Ezekiel. We've been, I don't know, we've been hearing a word. You've been saying HAP, HAP, HAP. We want to really understand because we need to understand what is HAP. Tell us about the concept of HAP. Tell us about the story behind HAP.
Okay. Okay. So HAP literally means housing as a product.
Housing
Um,
what?
Housing as a product. The same way maybe you have like a physical product like a computer or a car or digital product like Airbnb. That's what HAP is. And the reason for that name is kind of supposed to be like a rebellion to how maybe platforms like United Nations see housing. When they speak of housing, they tend to make it look like some impossible thing. They get something that's unattainable. But I just look at it that in the end, in the very end, what you're going to do is either the people that are going to use it is either they like it or they don't like it. And what is it that platforms like Apple with the iPhone, what did they do? So that billions of people think the same way about what they've produced. It's a lot of issues now. Do you understand? Like, remember when Apple just came in? Like, there were a lot of things you couldn't do. Just because now more people are using it. Yet, it was still seen as a status symbol. There's a way we can look at housing from that point. So that's the, kind of like the question mark that started Harp. So, but also in terms of like the actual story, in 2020, yeah, I think 2020, that's just after around that last time, I had a project. I'm an architect by profession, but then I have also a lot of interest in like urban design. Urban design, that's designing cities. Of course, those kind of projects don't come every time, but out of the blue, a friend just reached out and said that, "Oh, Bassey, would you like to be interested in an urban design project?" I said, "No, wahala." So I came on. So just supposed to be a couple of months. Um, where I was staying and where the office was just around like 40 kilometers, which is not far. You get average speed, 60 kilometers per hour, 70 kilometers. Should be there in no time. Well, my darling Lagos, takes me 3 hours to go there, 3 hours to come back. That's 6 hours on the road. So even though the terms was very flexible, it still was very frustrating. And this was something that I was taking lead on. I had like a team that I was working with at that time. It was really, really frustrating to do all of that. So I was like, okay, maybe I can get a shared space. I'd known about shortlets then. Hotels were out, shortlets were out. But and interestingly, even the name co-living, I know it sounds like I probably should have known this for like 200 years ago. I knew at that 2020, I didn't know the term co-living. Of course, everybody knows shared accommodation. So I just wanted something that I could stay in for 1 month, even if it's one bedroom. But they needed light. I can't come with my mattress too. You understand? It's just 1 month or 2 months, and then I'm out. And it's not even like my full house. Weekends I'm going back home. That flexible arrangement, and I couldn't find. That's when I knew that there was a real problem. There are platforms actually that try to provide it, but of course, because when you look at most of them, inventory is not nearly enough. Maybe 30, 40, and of course, you're probably occupied. Then there's plus all the rigmarole of trying to I define apartment, they're telling me I can get in 24 hours. But then there's all the whole process of getting that. You just get tired. So in the end, I think that was partly responsible for me not continuing that project. Thankfully, I reached a point where we could like present and then try to push for funding from it. But I was really pained because I could have stayed longer on that project. You get if I could sort out that accommodation issue. That's when it became very obvious that for I'm not the only one that have this problem. Discussing it with people initially, other people it became very clear that they also had the problem with me. And that's why I now said to do some research. Again, it was purely academic. I had no plan to convert this to a business or anything. Then it now became very clear that we could actually provide stuff on this part. I started looking at it first from an academic point, then to a design point. That's actually designing spaces, shared spaces, um, maybe on a plot, on two plots, on six plots, still not as a business. Before thinking about it, that okay, for me to actually do this, I need to first test. Do people even want this at all? We were lucky to now get like someone to bet on us, provide us with like initial funding to get like the first step and the physical property to now test. Again, it was just like an experiment. Then it was now once we got that first set of clients, we got sucked in and realized that this is a much bigger problem that we could actually even imagine. This is something that will take a lot of commitment to to get done. So I think on a fundamental level, that's really our story. That we didn't come looking for that oh we have everything figured out. There was a problem. And we took time and wanted to really understand the problem. And honestly, I think what I'm still trying to do is to understand the problem. And I'm not so much about the solution because the solution is, I feel like it's deep down inside the problem. If not, anyone would have solved it. The biggest platforms offering these solutions now in Nigeria, I think is Split. I don't think Split has up to 200
Split.
that's offering like this. I mean, like as an entity, I'm not talking maybe in terms of like, of course, we have Property Pro, Nigeria Property Center, but those ones are just kind of like they don't give you any, they are not taking on any liabilities. Do you understand? They are not putting their brand on it. If you get the property from Property Pro and then you scam Property Pro, do you understand? Their model does not say that they'll be liable. But platforms like Split, to a reasonable extent, they are going to be liable. Split, small, and the likes. But I now looked at it that I know we have the database already, and we're going close to like 500. That's just on what we are doing, and we've not even started to list. There are so many, and this is just in Lagos alone, people that are trying to do this thing. In as much as you want to create your own properties and everything, you'll be more valuable, feel like you're more valuable to everyone else if beyond that they are also now connecting people with these properties too. So I think that's fundamentally just the story of trying to find out what exactly is this problem of access again and affordability with housing.
Wow, thank you so much. The problem is massive, and it's
Yeah,
gonna take the likes of you and me to solve it. It's gonna take the likes of you and me to actually take responsibility and actually
yeah,
solve this problem. It's not good. The solution is not going to fall from heaven, right? So
yeah.
this next question, um it's a very serious question for me, right? Does co-living has the potential to solve the affordability crisis for housing in Nigeria? Do you think it can solve that problem?
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. And the truth is that it's not a very simple reason. There's this story that kind of like inspires me a lot. It's one of like Mo Ibrahim. Came to, I don't know that it was Egypt. That's in the early 2000s. And for people that didn't even have drinking water, they have hospitals. States wants to give them SIM card. You get, so that they didn't have phones, not to give them SIM cards. So it sounded like really ridiculous. And he had all the banking experience. He had the money, he had access to the funds. So even most of the people told him no because it felt like it was very safe. But instead found a way to get it done. It's not a charity. He never said he wanted to do a charity. It's a business that wants to make money and make money from people that don't have money. And in the end, he succeeded. But if you figured out very quickly that what you're doing is telecommunication, you find yourself building road, you find yourself doing this. It's a whole lot, but in the end, I think he invested less than $1 billion and sold just 5 years later for like $6 billion. You get good business from where people thought it was not possible, where the challenges look like it wasn't going to work. The next case study is Indomie. Indomie makes around like I'm hoping that exchange rate has not dealt with them. But they used to make up to like $1 billion a year in Nigeria. That's your 200 naira, 300 naira, $1 billion. But of course, this is the tricky part. When they interviewed the CEO, the company that manages Indomie is Tolara. When they interviewed the CEO, he said that okay, he knows I'm in the food business, but I know more about power than I know about food. So I'm going somewhere with all of this. So out of like their 1 billion, more than half, I don't think their food actually makes up to like more than 40% of this. Of course, I stand to be corrected. But what I understand, maybe around 40-30%. The rest is on food, or is on power. They generate and sell power and logistics. So do you get
Wow.
what I'm saying? So you now see, third example is Google. We are using YouTube now. You understand? We are not paying for it, and we are actually providing real value. This thing costs billions of dollars to maintain. Google is not a charity. YouTube is not charity business. So one of the ways I'm thinking about this thing that we can't solve this affordability problem, but first and foremost, it's going to be very expensive. And it's going to take someone that is a madman to think about, because now you have to rethink housing from the ground up. It's going to be something where you're not just looking for existing properties to retrofit, you're looking for land. And now it can't be land where you can buy, land you can lease. And even what you put on it cannot be brick and mortar. You're leasing it, you need to give the person back his empty land after maybe 10 years, 15 years. But then at the same time, it has to be stable enough. You can't tell me containers. I know most
Mm.
people look that. No, don't tell me that because it doesn't just work for our climate. If you're going to make concrete for our climate, Marx for instance can do his offices. But when it comes to residential, it's a problem by itself. I can have a whole conversation around that, but I know most people tend to say containers. But first question I'll ask is that have you done it before? If you've not, maybe if you want to stay away from this conversation, because some of us have, and we know the limitations around that. It has to be like proper structures, but that you can literally assemble and disassemble like you would an iPhone. Not a normal phone, I'm very specific. I don't know if you've seen an engineer work on your iPhone. It's almost as if they are plugging, removing, disassembling, and they can put it much, much more cleaner than the Android. That's the kind of thing we have to now do. And we have to be able to do it at factory, meaning that to the last T, the actual cost of these properties need to be, you can measure. It can't be something where you're using room sizes of maybe like 3,710. It's too odd. It has to be something that you can use standard measurement if you're having time to do. Because all those things now narrow down. It has to involve new materials. You get so by doing that, first of all, you'll not be able to reduce the cost of construction. And when you can properly reduce the cost of construction, have materials that are reusable such that you know that after now you're not throwing away. You can still use it for something else. One key material would be something like steel that you can repurpose for something else. Then from there you can now start to now push to the property. The property itself. Another thing I'm thinking about is that what value can you derive from people? YouTube, the value they are giving us is this platform now. The value they are deriving is that they are forcing us to watch ads. You get, and they're giving it for next to nothing. I've told you from those case studies, you know that they didn't really make money from their core products. Their core product was the basis for which they had other streams of income. And those other streams of income have to be in a way that is real value. Most food businesses now, even in Nigerian breweries, they share and telecoms, they share infrastructure. It's the only way they can keep this thing as low as they can keep it. So we have to think about it from that point. That what kind of value can you offer these people? For instance, maybe for Harp, the biggest co-living platform in the world is called Habit. They
It's
have
called
maybe
what?
Habit, Habyt. They just acquired the biggest co-living company in the US. So no one comes close. That's not the reason why HAP are trying to see how we can position ourselves because inevitably they want to look towards Africa. But unfortunately, if you still Google co-living in Nigeria or co-living in Africa, there's barely nothing going on. We are hoping to change that narrative soon. Those guys, what they've done now is that because of they have that large inventory, price cost for each of those things is much lower than what you can get anywhere else. They've already got paid the investment. Secondly, they have the numbers of people, thousands of people or tens of thousands of people per time every day. They have data where they work, the kind of work they do. You can create an entire business such that if someone is a graphic designer, you put that, oh, you have graphic designers who, especially if the person is complaining that he cannot pay, we'll give you the job. You understand? Because we have the database, we have the connect. So that way you can add value to these people and even improve their lives. So in fact, the HAP thesis, I know I mentioned that I wanted to start HAP as an academic stuff. It's supposed to be like my PhD, and it's to answer a very simple question that can access to housing financially improve the quality of life of people. So that you're earning 100K, you can create a formula that says that after 6 months, you'll be earning 500K. By doing that, it makes the investment worthwhile that we want to do for those infrastructure because we know that we can get our money back guaranteed. There's no dice because the people themselves we will incorporate their skill sets, you get, and use it to collect value. So even they not necessarily that they are paying us for those graphic stuff, but by connecting them, we know it increases their chances to pay. Or even better still, if you cannot pay, we give you the job, it's 200K, your rent is 100K, we don't collect our 100K. You understand a very simple thing. So we have to just rethink. Basically, it's a way of like it can't solve it, but from the ground up, we need to rethink what housing means,
Hmm. Hmm.
and
That's
it's
a very.
not in a fancy way. I've given real case studies now of people that have actually done it, or people that are currently doing it, and that's how we
Hmm.
have to think. Again, I'm not saying I have the answer, but I know that we've started on that path. Of it's as if you're coming to clear your own bush. You're not going through that The most times we've been to AIHS and some of those conversations are around the same thing. Everyone looking for bonds and type of things, or looking making it look as if like social housing. Even that terminology in itself, I have a problem, but that's a different conversation. Because when you now think about it, the next thing you're not thinking about, oh, there's a barrier of land, there's a barrier that how do we come up with more innovative materials? Technology has to be involved. If you can't think about it like that, the closest person that thinks now what I'm doing is I can't remember his name again. Professor Lusonya, University of Lagos. I get how it's mostly around the thinking. I might not completely agree with all of the result, but the thinking it shows that it's not a case of like, oh, we are helpless. Give us 500 billion. That's the way we can build 30,000 houses. And then they build the 30,000 houses, nobody's living there. And you're surprised why nobody's living there. So because
Mm,
it's not, we're not thinking about it differently. Like how can this housing now become a product that while they are here, they can add value to themselves and add value to the property. So yeah, the simple answer is yes, but we just have to think differently about it.
mm, mm. I agree with you. I agree with you. You know. So I'll move on to the next question. Time is fast spent. What's the role? What role is prop tech platforms like HAP currently playing in using technology to enhance real estate sustainability?
Okay, so fundamentally what we are doing is access. And unfortunately, maybe unlike some fintechs seem to have figured it out, but prop tech we're still very, very early. I'll tell you for free that even though most platforms are using technology, in real life they're actually not using technology. WhatsApp is still very effective. And nothing is wrong with that, but we realize very quickly that people approach real estate in a very, very different way than they do to every other thing. Maybe the price of a property is 600,000 naira per year,
Hmm.
and someone can probably buy very expensive stuff,
Mm.
pay for a short let for 6 days at 100K per night, that's 200,000. But meant to tell them that the property price is 200,000 per year, it's trying to negotiate to 550. There's all of that nitty gritty. So even the way we approach the technology too, they want to talk to a real person. So again, where I'm looking at it first and foremost is that the core thing we're trying to do very differently is in customer service. And unlike most platforms, one of the simple things we've done is to paste, reach us like different ways to reach us. I know that the second one, and that's something we're looking to employ now, is through artificial intelligence. Someone is trying to, and not just of people. There's a temptation to want to get. I'm a bit skeptical about that intelligence that tend to track people. I saw a tweet recently about like Facebook that the guy is currently 28, a journalist. He downloaded his data from Meta. Meta is the parent company of Facebook since when he was 11, and he found out that even to the number of times he logged into his bank, everywhere he has visited, Facebook has been tracking him. So there's that thin line. Say you want to track people and track their behavior. You go from that point to just purely being evil. To the point that Google's motto for the longest time was "Don't be evil." They knew how much powerful they were. But I feel like we can track information about data, about places and properties. There's so much insight we can get from there and how much those price points are. And those are
Hmm.
the kind of information that we are currently collecting now, and we are actively tracking such that anyone reaches out to us at any price point, almost any price point, we have something for them. We are a lot more valuable than someone that has maybe like the sexiest technology you get, and the only thing you have maybe is in Lekki Phase 1, Maitama, Guzape, and he's just looking for something that's for 400K a year. I beg, help me, get that kind of stuff. If you can't help them, if you can't use data points to kind of like crawl the web to get all of those information or leverage on the contact or organize it in such a way that you can present it more better, then what use are you? So I think to me that's one of the key stuff of how can you make this data a lot more accessible to people. That's why companies like Zillow, they are incredibly valuable, or all these companies that seem to track data points for people seeking properties. And it's not just for rentals, now maybe for sales and everything. Because you now know that, okay, you can now keep tabs on what you actually want to have. There's still this desire. Yes, we do rentals, but we know that that desire for people looking to own homes will not go away. People looking to kind of like co-invest because they believe in co-living or shared
Hmm.
accommodation, it's not go away. They will also always want to do that too. And but if we don't have data to do that, which again is a core part of technology. I know I'm not
Hmm.
saying very popular things, but I think that that's even a lot more. The most important thing that we need currently now in prop tech, and that's what HAP is currently focusing on.
Hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been really insightful, right? So let's look at the future, right? What do you think co-living? What role do you think co-living can play in the future?
Again, it's that's where a very core part of co-living comes on, and that's the community. Uh,
Hmm.
So we've had initially there's this temptation for most co-living companies to try to force a community. We even tried to do that when we started, but then we now realize that naturally people want to be around themselves. COVID made it very obvious. You get that we are not islands. We want to be around other people, especially when you have the opportunities to stay alone. By co-living, I'm not saying that we are getting maybe most of the spaces we had to deal with, they're on 2 floors and just 4 bedrooms, meaning that you can stay and not see someone if you want for the whole day. But then at the same time, in that moment where you don't want to be alone, you have people to want to talk to. And based on that community, especially if it's now carefully curated, you get carefully curated in the sense that a web designer and a developer is staying in the same property. If they stay long enough, there will be natural sparks for collaboration. And
Hmm.
those things indirectly now being done at scale, like you're not talking like thousands of properties, hundreds of thousands of people living together, and those interaction actually working because they are curated primarily by the work they do, the skill sets that they have, or the skill set they are looking to build. It has. I know I'm stretching now by making this prediction, but I believe it can have an impact on the overall country's GDP because it's
Hmm.
through work, especially when you're
Hmm.
exporting talent, especially where most of the talent now is not so much about not just tailoring and everything, but soft skills, using
Hmm.
your work, requiring just laptop and power. Those things are already provided. You're staying with people that complement your skills. You can't do everything yourself. Inevitably, if you're looking for someone that is a tailor, if you have a friend that's a tailor, they naturally come to mind. You have a neighbor that's a tailor, they naturally come to mind before anyone else. So it helps to build that stuff actively. And it's different from, say, a multi-family where it's agent that's randomized. This has been carefully curated. And I think it's more of like I'm excited and I'm looking forward to see how those things can what do you get what potential is going to give in the near future.
Hmm. Wow. Really, really insightful. Questions. Viewers are beginning to drop their questions, so let's just wrap up. 2 minutes. Let's wrap up the last two questions so that we take questions, right? So, what, in your opinion, is the reason why tech adoption in real estate is slow when compared to other industries? This is a very, very insightful question. What exactly is the reason? Why is the prop tech adoption to the real estate adoption to technology actually slow when compared to other industries like the fintech and all that doing marvelously well? What exactly is the cause of this slow move?
Because I think fundamentally we are trying to I think it's the first flaw is the assumption that what currently exists does not work. I think that's a lie. The fact that this the average Nigerian developer maybe gets 10 billion naira to build. and he's paying it off as loan, what value can you possibly give him? Especially when he's not thinking, even if you're saying you're charging 0.1%, he needs all the money. You understand? Why do you feel like he needs to put that money in your platform, then not take it from your platform? What exactly is your value proposition? What do you have currently work? And most people tend to aside from that problem, that lie that, oh, what currently exists does not work. It's not true. It works. But where technology can actually now bring real value is that you want to genuinely understand the processes. Like what I'm currently doing now to deeply understand agency. And I realized that the most have outrightly there were a lot in 2022. There were plenty. We even have the database for them, but most of it, like websites are no more live. And not like they are not trying hard, but I just feel like most of the one of the stuff is that if you come and say maybe you want to you want to disrupt the realtor agency, that you don't need realtor to buy a house, or you don't need agents to buy a house, you will fail. You're setting up yourself
Fact,
for.
facts.
You understand? Because you don't it's clear you don't understand the role those guys play. And people like your space now. So it's that stuff sat down, and that's one of the things that we're trying to do. So by doing that now, you can now find, and they're really very small, little areas where you can make the stuff better. And it's those little areas that we want to deeply focus on, and then provide real value for them. For normal agents, for instance, within this space, there's always the issue around like trust. You're sending money from one person to another person. You've not met the person, or a landlord, a client saying is going to inspect. You're worried that trying to go with the person. How much am I even making from it? That would they steal? Will the client just not? Will the landlord just steal the client from me? Because those are real issues now. That is at those points that if you want to come in, that you cannot use technology to solve. But to now come with this blanket of, oh, we don't need agents, no agency fee,
You're on your own.
all those ones. You get so that's why I think that's why it has been slow. That we are looking to solve the wrong problem, or even worse, that most don't even understand the problem yet. You're not coming here to do a sprint. It's a you have to slow down. It's a marathon, and it's very deep understanding of the oldest, literally the oldest, one of the oldest businesses ever, to understand how it works first. So yeah, so I think that's why it hasn't been that fast.
Okay. We are hopeful things will definitely get better. So this is the last question. Just wrap this up. What role can the government play in using technology to enhance real estate technology? This is a very, very if this particular question now, it's endless. We know we can achieve a
Yeah.
lot, but in your own opinion, what role can the government play in using technology to enhance, real estate technology?
I think for me, one of the key things, if there's anywhere we need maybe regulation, is around the investment, especially like co-investments. I fear that, especially even some of these bigger platforms now, they're taking advantage of people, and there's not much oversight in that. And I think that could be one of the areas where platforms like the SCC can come and make it maybe a bit more transparent, like forcing them to be a lot more transparent with how they collect people money to access real estate, whether it's for co-investment, an outright sale, monthly sale, and all of that. Because I've heard so many stories. Some of those people, some of these platforms didn't start off to be frauds. But if you yourself don't understand that the fact that you have 200 million, 10 people are giving 20 million naira each, it's not your money. You're not allowed to touch it. It's the same thing that's even happening now in fintech. You collect people's funds, and people want the money now. You're taking this one, that one, because you didn't manage it well. That's what frustrates people. I have a lot of people now that won't buy property, they won't buy land, they won't buy any of this. They don't even want to hear it because there's that issue of like, can I even trust this platform? You've bought the stuff, you've paid outrightly for it, then a lot of hidden fees start coming up. So those are the kind of things I think that government can help to make it, because some people have the money, some people can actually fund bigger projects and put it up for rental income. that can help other people. But they are not going to do that. They rather go to the west to buy those properties. You understand? And it's simply because there's not a lot of regulation here on both first in terms of purchase and in terms of like true ownership of the property. We have situation where a big man is reporting a bigger man to the public. I saw that on
Mm,
Twitter recently because the bigger man took his land or his property. There are all those type of things. There have to be systems to ensure they don't keep happening, or else it it will just mess us up. Yeah, that's it. Real estate naturally is the largest contributor to GDP in most countries, or at least in some countries. But in Nigeria, I think we're like third or fourth. If we can do more, we can do a lot more if all of these issues are sorted out.
mm. So he talked about building better regulations, the blockchain, SEC being more stringent in housing investment schemes,
Yeah,
increased supply. Yeah, you said a whole
yeah,
lot. You said a whole lot, Mr. Ezekiel. Just to get you, just something just came to my mind. I think when it comes to co-sharing, when it comes to commercial real estate, it's called co-sharing, right?
yeah.
You share a workplace. I think it's doing much more better on the commercial um um mode than the residential mode. Is Hap living also into the, apart from residential, are you guys still into the commercial uh, um, mode, or the commercial real estate, still on this co-sharing? Because where my office is in Abuja, yes, it's a shared office. It makes things easier. It makes life just smoother. So I think, I don't know, is Hap also looking at that on the commercial side while doing the others on the residential side? Or do you think there are challenges that will not enable you to go into the commercial mode?
Okay, so we currently have access to a couple of all these like co-shared space, and it's even something that we're looking to update. In terms of maybe like monetizing it, not yet, but it's even if we start by connecting people that actually with current platform that currently exists, it's stuff that we're looking to actively do. And but in terms of advisory too, we've also been actively doing that. And for the advisory part. But then outside of HAP, just recently there's a space that was just completed. What the client was wanted was an office for their staff. But I looked at the space and the staff is just like full staff is just eight. The rest are scattered over the country. In my head, I'm not like, you're wasting this space. And why don't you convert it to a co-working space? There's a lot more value for you. There's a lot more value for your staff. You get, it makes things a lot more easier for people. Especially with this situation now, this is where co-sharing will actually try to now push the boundaries of itself. We had the recent situation of power issues, internet issues. There are alternatives that this infrastructure that these people make that even if everyone's internet is bad, if you're a co-working company, you're giving priority because
Mm,
you understand your commercial space. Same thing for power. There are even some certain arrangements can actually make with this guy or alternative arrangement for those periods. That's where they now see the real value, even if you decide to charge them more. But as long as you can provide it for that period, you'll become more valuable. I'm not at home. I could do this from home, but I'm not home. You get so and I'm currently in an office. So when we think about this type of thing, realize that definitely why people might not want to always be forced to come to office. People want that option of being able to walk into any office and do work. There's a psychological benefit to it. It's not even so much about the internet. Most people already have their internet. You're muted again. No, I can't hear you yet. Okay, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
yeah, I said even credibility, apart from productivity, in terms of credibility too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's that benefit, and it's something we are looking at. There's no intention to monetize it or make it into a business yet, but while we think about co, the living spaces in itself naturally now translate to a co-working space. And when we have the opportunity to work on much larger apartment, naturally the ground floor is going to be co-working space. It's almost kind of like there's like a no-brainer. You get like most likely you're thinking on a straight path. When you hit properties large enough, you're going to have a co-working space for people to whether you're within a property or just coming outside to use it. So yeah, definitely it's something that you've been thinking about, and when the opportunity comes, you will implement it.
Mm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Time is fast spent. So let's take this question from the honey man. How do you incorporate user safety into co-living such that those sharing the same space are in no wise harmful to themselves in the case of sexual assault, kidnapping, and all that?
So the we get this question a lot, and one of the simple things we've seen is that we do some background checks on these people, like very, very aggressive background checks. And it's not just about like it's not even the NIN trying to look up all this information, no, but like actually like real try to get real data, try to follow social media activity track and see patterns. Because if those patterns actually exist, then it's most likely going to continue. A lot of people probably are not even staying in their, if maybe you're an average Nigerian at 31, 32, you're most likely living in your second apartment, and your NIN probably has your first or even your family house. So those information are not even reliable. But we have other methods we use to actually track this activity from people. But a major key one we've seen is work. Um, there's if you see someone's work history, there's a certain pattern, and if even when it's required to actually try to go back to the employer to see the kind of like pattern of behavior from that person. But work history, if you have like a consistent good work history, then of
Mm.
like progression and everything, we've seen that to be a good judge of character. Because naturally, if you're not, something would have given, especially since work is where you spend most of your waking hours. You get so that's one thing for. Then secondly, there's also the one where we send this information to existing guests and ask them that you, this person, do you want this person or not? Do you get that? And if they say no, that's it. Because ultimately, they have to be the one to deal with the person. Especially if it's a case of maybe like there are two ladies there and a guy is coming, or that kind of like imbalance of stuff, and then try to even also find out basic habits. Do you smoke? Do you do this? Do you do that? If you lie again, social media is a very interesting way to get this kind of information from. So it's a process that we do. We've accepted the payment, but it's not. It's conditional. It's kind of like that conditional payment that if those things don't go in place, we leave. But ultimately, we've not had anything remotely to that because you just see it as a self-contained,
Mm.
where the living areas is like the lobby. You've locked your room. You've locked your room. You get your shared space is now kind of like sort of like a semi-public space. You treat it as such. Most of our rooms are large enough. You get where you'll be more comfortable inside, but you're coming outside. This is like a semi-public space there,
Mm.
and some extreme cases too. We've we can have the Wi-Fi or CCTV just outside the door. We even have a property where the landlord spoke with the client that you're coming in, there's CCTV in the living area. You're not supposed to be naked in the living area. Your private space is the best. You get it's very extreme, but those are kind of measures where, of course, you know it's there before you pay, not like it's hidden. And if you're fine with it, especially from a safety measure or reporting those kind of crisis measure, it helps people. It also keep people on their toes. On the international level, some of the measures they do is that they put like a redundant. It's not a camera. It doesn't work, but just keep it there to kind of like caution people's behavior. But in our experience, we've seen that natural behavior, people don't know themselves that much
Yeah.
to even start any of that process. Most of the cases around like rape, sexual abuse happens mostly to people you're very familiar with. You're more likely to be harmed by someone you're very familiar with than someone you're not. So that statistics have held very, very true so far. For we've not had a single issue, maybe like fives outsource from all the like hundreds of properties that we've done booking for, either the ones we manage ourselves or the ones that are third party.
Hmm. Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Ezekiel. It's been
Thank you for
insightful. It's
thank you
been
for having
it's been amazing. It's been so it's we've been having some very smart conversations, some very, very intelligent conversations. Thank you so much for doing this. The honey man, I hope you have your answers to your question. Is there any other question? Let's take one more before we go. Does anybody want to drop a question so that Mr. Ezekiel can, you know, tell us more, blow our minds? Any question before we go? Any question? Um, since there's no question, I hope the honey man got value for, or he understood Mr. Ezekiel's approach to his question. I must say thank you so much. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. So everybody is saying thank you, Mr. Ezekiel. Thank you so much for doing
me.
this. Thank you for coming here to share your ideas, your opinion, and how you actually think things can be better. You said something that really struck me. You said we really don't believe in what is actually what we have, or we really don't have. We really that we have a mindset that it doesn't work. The thing is that it works. Whether we try to hide from it, it works. It works. It works. There's no two ways about it, right? Okay, someone is asking another question. Is there any new building material currently in development to reduce the construction talk? You see this question, you see this particular one. We're hosting a space within the month, the last week of the month, just to talk about how we can achieve more with what we have. Just like you have said, we believe that what we have doesn't work. We're trying to think outside the box right now. A friend of mine the other day, we're having a conversation. She wanted to import something for her business. Last year, that thing was about 1.5 million naira. Today, it's about 3 million naira. And guess what? She fabricated that particular thing she wanted to import here in Nigeria for less than 500,000 naira. We need to start thinking outside the box, right?
Yeah.
The economic challenges is
Has forced us to think.
we need to take responsibility. We need to take different approach. Thank you so much, Mr. Ezekiel, for sharing your approach, and we're so grateful for this. Right? Thank you so much. If you want to know more about how we can develop new ways to reduce the construction costs, we're having an insightful Twitter space this month. Join us on that space so that you learn more. Mr. Ezekiel, I was about asking you something. Okay, now, so probably I want to onboard to have, I want to enjoy these things you're talking about. How do you think I can onboard? How do you think I can tell those people that have the Jackpot syndrome, people that want to Jackpot now, 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 now? How can they onboard their properties? How can one, I'm coming to Lagos, for example, I want a place to stay for 1 month, right? How can I get in touch with her to know what is available? Mm.
Okay. So first, maybe if you want to japa and you want to onboard, one of the things we actually figured out is that every single landlord, every single one we've had to deal with, their needs are different. So we've stayed away from this one size fits all. We will listen to what your core needs are, and then actually now run the numbers for you based on what you need to actually achieve. I think that's one of like, so all those advisory is free of charge to you, where we kind of now advise, um, prepare a proposal for you, of your own property, the current state, if it needs anything or if it's good to go as is, as well as how much you potentially make, your running costs, the unit economics around all of that. And then we also give options, at least like 3 to 4 options, different like methods, for pricing. And then you decide which one works for you. But most of the time, they tend to give it back to us. Like, choose for us. So I think that's really it. So what we just want is that you just reach out, just one meeting, maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour meeting. We can work out like everything, for you. And then based on, because we already have some data point, there's some certain properties that, say if you're having a property in Yaba, Lekki Phase 1, this is Monday. I'm not bragging, but I could assure you that by the end of the week is out of the market completely free because we already have the price point for it. And if it's outside of those major areas, we already know how to connect it to major areas, so that it becomes still very valuable to people. And for people looking to on board, again, you can just simply visit our website to check. The website currently does not have nearly enough of what we have access to. So we can almost confidently tell you that whatever you have, you can also now reach out to us through our WhatsApp channel, and then we connect with you. Because again, like I mentioned before, when we think about technology, it's a means to an end,
Mm.
and we will not bore you with login, sign up when you haven't found what you're looking for. That's what we are keen on, and sometimes it takes a lot of sacrifice on our part. But we've seen that if people get this housing right, like sure we've been in that situation. You got a house and it seems like everything started to work out well in your life because of where the house is, and it ticked most of your boxes. Started sleeping well and everything. So those things, we know it matters for you. So we'll take that time to give you options that work within, because we have the options right now. And what
Mm.
we're currently working on is how to now put it back on our platform in a way that's
Mm.
going to be meaningful to you. But it's just to simply reach out to us, and then we'll take on your request and provide options.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Ezekiel. So he said visit the website, you can reach out, and all your questions and everything will be answered. Thank you so much for doing this for me. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege. Thank you so much, Mr. Ezekiel. And
Thank you so much.
for our viewers, you guys have a secured spot in heaven. Forget it. Thank you so much for joining, and we really appreciate. So this will be the end of the section, until we'll come your way again this month, next month April, we're coming to you bigger and better. Thank you so much. And if you have recommendations, please leave so that we can actually do better. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you. Bye, Mr. Ezekiel. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.